Welcome to the Explainer. So let's say you've got this incredible new robot, but here's the catch. You're trying to launch it in a place that's seen it all before. How in the world do you get anyone to pay attention? Well, today we're going to dig into exactly that. A fascinating case study on how one company completely smashed through all that noise.
So, this wasn't just some hypothetical question. It was the exact challenge facing Yango, a global tech company, when they wanted to bring their delivery robots to the UAE. You gotta remember, this market was already flooded with similar tech. So the real problem wasn't just, how do we launch this thing? It was, how do we make anyone actually care?
All right, so first things first, let's break down the challenge. How do you make a grand entrance when you're not the first one to the party?
Okay, so Yango's objective was pretty straightforward. Build some authority, get some eyeballs on their new autonomous delivery robots. But the market's challenge? Oh, it was a big one. Think about it from the media's perspective. They've seen a dozen of these robot of the future launches. They're skeptical, they're tired. They've basically got what you'd call robot fatigue. So this was never about just launching something new. It had to be about launching something genuinely interesting.
So how do you do that? How do you become the interesting one in the room? Let's dive into the blueprint. This is the strategy their PR agency, NettResults, came up with to really cut through all that noise.
And this is where it gets really smart. Their strategy was absolutely surgical. First, they curated their media lists. We're not talking about a spray and pray approach here. They specifically targeted local Arabic platforms, logistics experts, business media, and tech outlets. Step 2, they focused the messaging. They weren't just saying, hey, look, a robot. They were talking about sustainability, efficiency, and how this fits into the whole smart city vision for the UAE. Super relevant. Then they did targeted pitches, offering top-tier journalists exclusive stories, making them feel like they had a real scoop. And finally, they trained their spokespeople to be confident, clear, and culturally on point. This wasn't just a plan, it was a full-on 360-degree masterclass in communication.
All right, so you've got a brilliant plan on paper. But we all know that a great strategy is only as good as its execution. So let's see how they put this whole thing into action. And wow, did they execute. They didn't just get a few articles here and there. They secured major interviews and features in huge outlets like Logistics Middle East, Arashik, and Zawya. And they coordinated this across more than 10 different verticals. Think about that, from hardcore tech press to lifestyle magazines. They also went deep into Arabic digital media with big names like Al Bayan and Al Khalij. And, of course, they blew it up across LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. They turned a simple product launch into a citywide conversation. Okay, so they did all this work, right? They had the strategy, they had the execution, but here's the million-dollar question. Did it actually work? Let's get into the data-driven impact.
The first number is just huge. A total editorial reach of 6.12 million. Let that sink in. We're talking about their story landing in front of over 6 million people. In a market that was supposedly tired of robots, that is an absolutely massive win. And it gets even crazier. We're talking about a 1,500% increase in media mentions. That's not a typo, 1,500%. This shows it wasn't just about reach, it was about creating a genuine buzz. They didn't just broadcast a message, they started a fire.
But, it's one thing to get a lot of mentions. It's another thing to get the right mentions. And this chart says it all. Quality over quantity. A whopping 58% of their coverage was in Tier 1 publications. These are the big, respected names. That's how you build real, lasting brand authority, not just a fleeting moment of noise. And if you're not impressed yet, this should do it. Look at the media sentiment. About 46% was positive, and the rest was neutral. But you know what's missing? Anything negative. That's right. They generated 0 negative coverage. In today's media landscape, that's practically a miracle. It just proves how perfectly their message landed.
So what are the big lessons we can pull from this? Let's get into the key takeaways.
Okay, there are some really powerful learnings here. First, culturally relevant messaging isn't just a nice-to-have, it's non-negotiable, especially in a place as diverse as the UAE. You have to connect locally. Second, giving journalists exclusive content and access, it works. It makes them feel valued, and it seriously boosts your chances of getting into those top-tier outlets. And third, think bigger. A targeted, multi-vertical approach means you're not just preaching to the choir, you're creating much broader, more lasting visibility for your brand. Ultimately, it all boils down to this one powerful idea. Lasting visibility is born from connecting global innovation with local relevance. You see, a fantastic product just isn't enough on its own anymore.
Yango's real success wasn't just launching a robot. It was about starting a conversation that mattered to the people right there. And that really leaves you with the final thought, doesn't it? What's the story your big idea needs to tell to actually truly be heard?